Alright guys, welcome back. As I stated in my last video, I'm going to have to work on removing the power steering rack so that we could access the harmonic balancer. As you can see, the power steering rack is right in front of the harmonic balancer, and that's also blocking access to the harmonic balancer bolt. There's no way to get a harmonic balancer puller on there. So if we want to get to the camshaft, we have to remove the power steering rack here. And the first thing we have to do is we have two 13mm bolts here that hold in place the traction control module. It's that thing up there, so we got to remove those. And we have two 13mm bolts on each side of the sway bar that screw into the cross member. So we got to remove these four. So once we remove those, then we have to disconnect the sway bar from the end links. And so this is a Torx 50 here, and this is an 18mm nut. So it's a good idea to try to hold this stud with a wrench or a socket, so that the stud doesn't spin while you're turning this nut to disconnect the sway bar and these end links here. So once that's out, then I guess we have there's two power steering lines that go into the top of the rack. So once that's out, we should be able to pull out the power steering rack. Probably gonna have to knock the tie rod ends off. You just take a hammer and hit the tie rod right there, and this should just drop. Gonna have to take the wheels off probably. And then we have to work on lowering the K member. But let me get started first on loosening these 13mm nuts. I'm sorry, 13mm bolts there and there, and here and here and here and here. And I'll take it from there. Alright guys, I'll be back. Okay, I just want to show you guys what I was talking about earlier. Trying to disconnect the sway bar end link from the lower A-arm. So I got my 18mm wrench, and then I have a ratchet with a Torx 50 socket. I took out the bit, obviously. I placed it over the top of the stud. And basically, I pull up on the wrench and I push down on the ratchet to loosen the sway bar end link from the lower A-arm. That's pretty much how you do it. That's what I was talking about earlier. Alright, let me get back to it. I'll be back. Alright, on the driver's side now. Got my ratchet on there. Got my wrench. And the ratchet's just hitting the bottom of my lift. And then I'm just able to push down to loosen the nut that holds the tie rod end onto the lower A-arm on the driver's side. So that's basically how you do it. It's a little slow going, but it's going. Alright guys, I'll be back. Just wanted to show you that. That's about the trickiest part so far. If I run into any other hang-ups, or if I come up with any tricks, I'll let you guys know. Alright, I'll be back. Okay, I got the sway bar out. That's it right there. Just put some blue tape around to hold the bracket from falling off the bushing, and this way I don't lose it. Now I just have to disconnect the two big bolts. These are 18 millimeters. Got one there and one up in there. And then the power steering rack will be freed from the cross member. And then I just gotta knock the tie rod ends off. You see this clamp right here? This clamp is holding a power steering hose in. It just goes around and loops back. The reason why I put that clamp there is because the downpipe that's coming out of the Procharger comes down here, and it's in between the sway bar. Sway bar's about here, and that downpipe's here. So this is like crushed right in between the steering rack and the sway bar that's here. And if you're not careful, it will rub against the harmonic balancer right there. So there's literally like 3/16 of an inch. I know you can't see it from here, but there's 3/16 of an inch clearance between this power steering hose and the harmonic balancer. So I put that clamp there to hold one end, hold it tight and firm so it doesn't move around. As you can see from here, there still is some vibration moving around, and this foam padding that goes around one end, it's actually been chewed out from rubbing against the downpipe that comes out of the Procharger. So if you have a Procharger, check this power steering line, because there's a good chance it could be rubbing against your harmonic balancer. Alright guys, let me get back to work and I'll be back. Okay, I just want to show you guys, I had said earlier you have to disconnect that line and that line. I apologize, you don't have to disconnect it. I don't know what I was thinking. You have to disconnect, see that right there? That one, and then that two right there. You have to disconnect those two. I had lent out my crow's foot set, and that's about the only thing you're going to get in there. Crow's foot with an extension. So I have to go buy another set now. There's going to be a little delay. So you got to disconnect those two, but I'm taking out the power steering fluid, or as much of it as I can, so I don't have so much of a spill all over the place. But once again, I'm using that handy tool. This is a great tool to have, brake bleeder vacuum pump kit from Pittsburgh. And I'm just siphoning it out. It just doesn't hold that much, so I just have to open it up, pour it out into this container, and maybe do it 2 times, maybe 3. But it's a handy tool to have. It works great. So would a big turkey baster, but I don't have that. Alright, so let me get back, and I'll be back shortly. I'm sorry guys, it's just been one of those days. As you remember, I had previously loosened up the alternator power steering bracket. I just had it held in temporarily with just one bolt threaded about halfway through. So I just undid that bolt and moved it to the side, and now I have all this room. So I went to the store, I bought a set of crow's feet, and it's just been one of those days. And guess what? They don't have the size I need. It goes from 15 to 17 to 19, and I need 18. Unbelievable. But now with that out of the room, I could probably just get a wrench in here. I might even grind this 17 a little larger. Now I could get it in there. It's just one of those days. I don't know what I'm thinking. Alright, so now I can get these 2 lines off. Alright, I'll be back. Okay, so if you're just changing out the power steering rack, or rack and pinion, whatever you want to call it, you're not going to take the alternator power steering bracket out most likely. But you could. It's more work, but it would give you more room to those 2 lines down there. But most of you probably won't be doing that. So use a crow's foot 18 millimeter with some extensions, and break those two lines free. But in my case, since I'm doing the heads and cam swap, I'm just taking it all out. Alright guys, I'll be back. Alright guys, before you go pulling out the power steering rack or rack and pinion, whatever you want to call it, it's important that you don't move your steering wheel or the steering wheel shaft or the steering gear on the power steering rack. So make a couple of marks and do your best not to move either the steering wheel or the steering gear. And when you're taking the steering rack out, or rack and pinion, whatever you want to call it, try not to pull on the tie rod ends, because you will turn the gear, the pinion gear up here and here, the steering gear. Now GM sells a tool to lock your steering wheel in place, but I'm not going to be using that. I'm going to lock the steering wheel in place with some ropes and straps. I'll see how I could do it. And make sure you have your wheels and your steering wheel perfectly straight when you lock them in position. That's about it. So I'll be back. I'll let you guys know my progress, and I'll let you know any tips. Okay, I'm over here on the driver's side of my car. I took the, well, let me show you what I did. My car's on a lift, so I had to get it up in the air, well, get the front half of the car up in the air so that I could take the front wheels off. So I put two jack stands on the ground, raised them up a little bit, and I took a 2x8 and I laid it flat on top of the jacks, and then I carefully positioned everything underneath the cross member, and then I very slowly lowered the car until the front tires came off the lift, off the ramps about 1 inch. That's all I needed, so I could take them off. And the reason why I did that is because we've got to take the outer tie rod ends off. So basically it's got one nut, 18 millimeter right there. Just unscrew it, and then I just took a hammer and hit the hit it right here just a few times gently, and I just pushed down and it just came right out very easily. And my car only has 8,000 miles on it, so maybe that helped, but didn't require a lot of force. So I just hit the knuckle here with a hammer, with a small hammer, nothing big, and it came right out. I'll show you on the passenger side. Okay, so here I am. I'm on the passenger side. Got the car supported with two jack stands, a 2x8 piece of wood under the cross member. So basically you're going to take an 18 millimeter wrench, put it like that, and then if you look at the top of the stud right here, it's got a torque bit. So basically you're going to take a 6 millimeter and you're just going to insert it like that. So this way when you crank down on the nut, I just loosened it, the stud doesn't spin. So you can just use a ratchet to hold it in place. Like that. Alright, so then just crank on one, crank on the wrench, and hold the ratchet, and then you'll take out that nut. Okay, so I got the nut off. I don't even have to hit this side with a hammer, it just comes right out. There you go. That's it. Now I'll just put the nut back, thread it on lightly just so I don't lose it. And that's it. So I just have to get a few more bolts out and we can pull out the rack and pinion / steering rack assembly. I'll be back. Okay, so to make more room, make it easier so I don't get hung up when I pull out the power steering rack, I still have the power steering pump, power steering fluid reservoir connected to the power steering alternator bracket. Basically, I could just pull it out. I'm just going to have to be careful and fish some of these wires out, some of these power steering fluid lines. And I have to pull some out between here, some out between here, as I lift the assembly up and out. Try not to disconnect any lines. Try to do this in as few steps as possible, make my life easier. So I'll let you guys know if it works out. All right, I'll be back. Okay, you know what? You could get it out this way, but you need two hands, and of course nobody's helping me. So it looks like I'm gonna have to just break this one line, not break it, but undo this one line that goes to the bottom of the power steering pump. I mean, there's absolutely no room in there. It's 16 millimeter. So I almost had it out. I just really needed another set of hands. But you could pull everything out without having to disconnect any of these hydraulic hoses. But I almost had it. But I just really needed another hand. Alright, so I guess I have to do this the hard way. It's going to make a mess, leak all over the front of the engine probably, but that's what it takes. Alright, I'll be back. The only thing I have left to undo is this one nut right here, and then the two main bolts that hold the rack and pinion in place. So again, don't move your steering wheel. My steering wheel is tied down. I made some marks. I don't know if you can see here and here. I even made a mark here on the boot, there on the nut, and a little bit on the collar there. So it's very important that you do not turn your steering wheel or the steering gear on the rack and pinion. Alright, I'll be back. Alright, so I'm getting ready to take the first of the two main bolts that hold the rack and pinion in. So you got there's a nut on the back, you got the bolt in the front. Put an 18 millimeter wrench on the back, and I have a socket here on a ratchet, and I'll crank down on them and loosen this up, and have to do the same on the other side. Alright, I'll be back. Alright, I'm over on the driver's side now. I got the passenger side nut and bolt out. Now you see the nut way back there? So you got to take the tire off on the driver's side just to get that. Get a wrench on there. And now from the front, I got the extension. I'm using the air ratchet. It's a really long bolt. It was just too slow going on the passenger side. So after that, it's going to be ready to come out. Thank God. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to lower the cradle. And that's going to be fun. Alright, I'll be back. Okay, so here we are about an hour and a half later. I got the car up on the lift. I had to cut some wood. Those are 2x10s. I wanted to spread the load as wide as possible, make as large of a footprint as possible. I didn't want to just put the jack stands there, because I did that one time and I actually started to bend the ramp on this one right here. So this one's a little bit bent already. So that's how I did it. I had to jack it up, lower it, jack it up, lower it. It's a pain in the neck, but it took a while. So now I just got to loosen the 4 bolts that hold in the cradle. There's one there and one there, and then you have on the other side as well. You're just going to loosen them. You only need like ½ an inch of clearance. Do not take them off. You just need like ½ an inch of clearance to pull out the rack and pinion. And then after I do that, I'm not going to leave the car up and like this. I'll bolt the cradle back up, put the wheels back on, lower the car properly on the lift. I'm not going to leave it like this, because Lord knows how long I'm going to be working on this project. But, alright, so hopefully the next video will be with that power steering rack sitting on the floor. That's been the most complicated, difficult part of this whole project so far. And I was dreading it, but just takes a really long time. Alright, so I'll be back, guys. Wish me luck. Thank you. Underneath the car, you just have this one connection here, which goes to the rack and pinion. Just unplug this one connection. Okay. And I had to jam a little wedge in there, a little crowbar, just to give me enough room so I could pull it out. I'm surprised the cradle actually didn't really drop with these bolts. When I loosened the bolts, it's still pretty much in place. I don't know why. Oh well. Alright. And then you just have to pry up here. You got a little bushing. Just got to pry up on that to lift it up, and then we'll take it out the driver's side. Alright, I'll be back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so there it is. I got the rack and pinion out. Let me show you guys a couple of things that I had to do. I've got the car back off the jack stands now. I got the wheels back on. Wasn't comfortable leaving it like that. Plus it's easier for me to work on now. Let me just show you a couple of things that you got to keep an eye out for. Alright, so just give me a sec, I'll be back. You're going to have to get creative, because you're going to have to move all these brake lines, unless you want to disconnect them from the ABS unit up there. I did not want to do that. I didn't want to get into bleeding brakes. So you just have to disconnect. There's a bracket holding one line on. It's hard to see from this side. Oh, right there. See that nut over there? Disconnect that bracket. That holds one brake line in. And that brake line actually runs behind this the cross member here. So undo this clip as well, just so you could, just pull back on the clip, disconnect the line. That line goes to the front passenger wheel. So I used a tie wrap right there to hold one out of the line, one out of the way. Then I use a bungee cord to get that out of the way. So all in all, it wasn't that bad. I had tightened all 4 bolts on the engine cradle. Didn't want to leave that suspending. Remember, just loosen them like half an inch. You just need like half an inch of clearance. Do not remove them, just loosen them. Well, this one must not be threaded all the way. Very few threads sticking out there. And over here I got a lot more. Well, I gotta look into that. So all in all, not too bad. Alright guys, I'll be back. Hopefully the next video we'll start taking off like the coil packs and some of the lines on the intake manifold, and we'll get started. Alright, I'll be back. Thanks for watching. If you could do me a favor, please click the like and subscribe button. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'll do my best to help you guys out. Thank you and good luck.